We are live. So, um, Christopher, Mr. Salem, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. A pleasure to be back.
Yeah, these are always interesting. Reaching back and touching base with interesting individuals that I've already talked about before. Give me an update on how what's new in your lane. We're going into 2026 season. Um, what's new for you this year? Is there anything that you're doing differently? I hate to talk about New Year's resolutions, but everybody's got something new going on, regardless of whether you double down on it, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, I would say that, everything's pretty consistent what I was doing, last year. My goal
Okay.
this year is to, continue to put out the message about the importance of emotional intelligence and effective communication.
Okay.
Many of the issues that we have both on a personal and professional level can be aligned with the lack of emotional intelligence and ineffective communication. And oftentimes when things lead to conflict and other types of things, it's just again because there's a lack of foundation with emotional intelligence and people are not communicating effectively to each other. They just assume and speculate. So my job is as a subject matter expert and professional speaker, in addition to being a business acceleration strategist in this area, is to continue to keep putting that message out, sharing, getting people engaged, getting buy-in for them to start doing something about it, start to make improvements on their end and get better at what they can do to make their situations better.
One of the things that interests me nowadays, particularly as an older as a I say older male. I'm not going to claim older, but I'm getting there. I'm about in
Well,
my
I'm old. I'm almost 59, so I'm sure you're a lot younger than me.
yeah, it's tight race, man. Tight race. We get real tight there. About 46, so it's tight race. Um, I think about the legacy that I leave with my kids, and a lot of stuff. That goes into materialistic. This has been an ongoing conversation I've had with other people too. But what does that look like on your end? Do you see the end? We start getting towards the middle there. We start thinking the end from the beginning rather than beginning to the middle. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
does that ever cross your mind about, okay, am I getting my affairs in order? What does that look like? What am I
Well,
passing down? What am I leaving?
I
Yeah.
totally agree. I would say that again, there are things that you can control and there are things that you can't control. And I think I talked about this earlier on your show, the
Mhm.
last show, was that the only thing you can control is you. You can't
Mhm.
control other people in situations. No matter how hard you try, you can't. So in
Mhm.
this case, it's okay to have a vision, to have a goal, an objective.
Mhm.
It's the difference is not attaching yourself to the outcome, because when you do that, you get caught up in the past and the future, and you get tied to something that's outside of your control. But if you could say, hey, that's what I'm aiming to do, and you could still see it. Now you bring yourself into the moment and focus on your process. What can I control right now that I can do that will help me move me forward towards that goal? It's like football. My job is to get into the end zone, but if I'm just thinking I got to get into the end zone, guess what? I'm going to be not as clear and focused, and I'm more likely to fumble the ball. I'm more likely to not get a first down. I'm more likely to throw an interception. Where now all I got to do is come up with the next play that's going to move the ball forward. Our job is to move the ball forward, get a first down, maybe another first down, to the point of moving it into the end zone. So I have to focus on what I can control right now in this moment. And as soon as there's something that's outside of my control that won't allow me to move forward, I park it and then move on to the next task, whatever that may be. So this is how I've been able to prioritize and rank what's important in that order, and then focus on those priorities of what I can control to maximize that to the point where I finish it. So if I can't finish it in one day, maybe it takes me 3 months, but I'm always going to be focused on the process. So I'm leading with intentions. I'm not getting tied to the outcome through expectations, only to be stressed have anxiety, frustration, all of the above. So these are some things that I always recommend to people. Trust the process. Focus on what you control, let go of what you can, prioritize and rank accordingly, get rid of anything that doesn't serve you or distracts you. And that's more likely to keep you focused on the things that matter to make it happen.
All right. I think that answered my question, but more specifically, more specifically, what do you plan on leaving anything to your kids? And if so, what is it?
When it talks about leaving things for my kids, yes, there could be some certain things that could be, like monumental or like actual things that you like. Of course, I have a Rolex watch. Yeah, will I leave that to my son? Sure, I'm going to leave that to my son. But that's not what's most important. What I want to be able to leave to my kids is the ability to be that example and be a resource every day for them to do for themselves. That is the greatest gift that you can give, especially your family, your children, is your example and resourcefulness that they can model for who they are to now step up and do for themselves, rather than just say, hey, I'm going to leave you this dad's car, or I'm going to leave you this watch, or I'm going to leave you the house, or, all of those are nice. But nonetheless, it's what your children become in terms of their character, their, maximizing their abilities and skills. And when they're able to do that because they felt like dad was a great role model for me to do that for myself, I can't think of any greater gift than that.
Okay. Everybody leans left or right, depending on. So when you die, all he gets is the watch and skills. It's skills. That's it.
Well, of course, there's other things too, but I'm talking about what's really, really important. I mean, you can leave your children a lot of stuff, hey, you're gonna, and then they're gonna feel entitled, and they're gonna feel like, hey, that's not helping them. You're not helping them. You're just causing them to be stagnant, stuck, to be dependent on you, and then they're not going to be a good resource or value to their own children if that happens.
Yeah, everybody's got different belief systems, depending on some people say no, some people say, yeah, I want to leave something behind. Some people say, I'm leaving something behind. Are they learning anything from it? Are they learning anything from what I'm leaving behind here? Am I leaving it with them? I'm trying to teach them what they need to in order to survive.
You got to do for yourselves. I mean, what is it? Kevin O'Leary, the shark, one of the sharks. He's a multi-millionaire, and he didn't give his children any money. He didn't pay for their school. They learned to do for themselves. Oof. So you say, God, he's not a nice dad. He didn't even pay for their college. He has all the money in the world. What the heck? He wanted to say that, like me, I paid for my education. I earned my success. You are going to earn your own success as well. So again, according to what you said, your beliefs, it comes down to your beliefs, but also not only your beliefs. I'm a firm believer that you have to look at the complete picture. You got to look at your beliefs, but also how that aligns to what's important to the other people involved. You can't just see it from your perspective. You got to find some common ground, with that.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that adage there. I got a vexing complaints. I'm not fully aligned with that belief. I'm 50-50 on it. I was complaining. Me and one of my good friends was complaining about that, particularly as African American males. There's like this. We call, it's. I think it's coming across multiple cultures. Like, you talk about the cultural perspective. Me and him fuss about it underneath our breath. Like, man, our parents want us to pull ourselves out. It's almost like the parents say, yeah, I got to struggle, so you have to struggle too. All that kind of bull crap. It's like, look, my kids are not going, hopefully not struggle as much as I had to struggle in order to get through life, So there's this, and there's a biblical connotation to it a little bit too. The Bible says the Bible says a good man leaves an inheritance. And everybody has to define what that inheritance means, for them and their family system, definitely. But yeah. So when I hear different takes on it, I'm appreciative of it because I understand, because it's a universal
Yeah, I
language.
mean, I have no problem
Yeah,
giving what I have, and
yeah.
but it's more than just the assets. It's my example and resourcefulness. That's what really matters the most. That's the first priority for me.
Do you feel like so there's no part of you that says I want to give them something that gives them aside from skills a step ahead of everybody else?
Well, no, of course. I mean, like I'll give you an example of my son who's right now in college. Am I paying for his education? Sure, I'm paying for it, but he's earning his keep. He's doing certain things that he has to
Okay,
do in order for that to keep going on. After his first year, he's in a fraternity. He's gonna take a part-time job, not
okay,
because he absolutely needs the money, but it's going to show again, he's earning his keep. This is not a free ride. It's not something that's just handed to you and
okay,
then you expect when you need something, everyone's going to, drop what they're doing to provide for you. That doesn't prepare him for to become when he becomes not he's an adult now, but even now an adult who's now
right.
responsible that when he has his own kids, so that hopefully he's going to do the same with those similar values and create self-directed and interdependent children that will create the next generation of people who are responsible for their lives and not dependent on just others.
Yeah, but he's not starting from zero. Is what I
No,
get from
no.
it. It's not starting from zero. It's like, all right, you're all by yourself. I've given you all the mental skill sets. Go for it. Kind of deal. It's like, and that's great and
That,
all.
that's that's where your example and resourcefulness, because
Yeah.
children growing up learn from what they observe. They learn from what they observe subconsciously from their parents and how you communicate to yourself and others, your behavior in alignment with that, your attitude, your emotions, and how you respond versus react to others in situations,
Mhm.
and your action. So if my actions contradict what I said, if I'm always reacting out of stress and anger, if I'm always seeing the glass half empty rather than half full, then again, it's all going to play a part in how they adopt the way they look at the world. And so my job is to make sure that I'm filling my cup every day, taking care of me, putting the oxygen mask on me first, so then I can be a better example and a resource to put it on them and do for themselves.
Fair enough. I'll accept that for right now. Um, no, it's good. I've heard I've heard a balance of thought, and everybody's trying to figure it out in different ways. The question is where do I lean more towards? Where do I give my kids a leg up? Actually saw I actually saw a clip of a wealthy man. He said the opposite of Kevin O'Leary. He said that he gives his kids a their inheritance right now. He gives them money because he enjoys seeing how they spend it and what they do with it. And that's an interesting take on handing down legacy. He's teaching them how to he's teaching his kids by giving them something that's going to benefit them and seeing if they actually are responsible with it. And he identified that he takes pleasure and enjoyment in watching his children sort of spend money that he's earned. I said that's an interesting take on it. I said I'm 50-50 on the whole thing. Because
Well,
there's
again,
yeah.
it depends on the situation. If the kids are appreciative and grateful and give back and are willing to do something that where they don't feel like they're innate pleasing and enabling other people and keeping them codependent, then there's nothing. Then it's fine. But it's just that a lot of times when most people have been handed everything to them and
Mhm.
enabled their lives, and that's all they know,
Right.
oftentimes that's what they become, and it's hard to break those patterns.
Yeah.
And then when they don't get what they want, all hell breaks loose. And so the thing is, again, it's just based upon your experience and what you feel works best. I go off of, I'm a firm believer that when you play your part and do your part, you learn and grow and become more as part of the process instead of just all being handed to you, so to speak.
Yeah, I've heard different takes on it. Have you heard the take that The first generation, it's hard to make the wealth. They're the ones that make the wealth. The second generation spends the wealth, and then the third generation loses the wealth. You ever heard that? You ever heard that? I've heard it in different frameworks before. So,
Yes.
as far as a cautionary tale on really inheritance, or the idea that most modern millionaires or billionaires are like first generation. They're not. There's not this huge thing of people who have generational wealth like we think it is. You familiar with that sort of
Yes.
statistic phenomena? But it alludes to your
I mean,
point.
you look at
Yeah.
Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump came from, a father. Father was very well off. He
Mhm.
like, I'm not saying Donald didn't do any work. He did. I mean, he took his dad's real estate business to a whole new level. But
Right.
yeah, his dad had already been successful, and
Right.
Donald grew up in that, and then once he was able to earn his keep and pay his dues, he was able to take it to a whole other level that his dad had never done. So that's good. That's good. And sometimes maybe his kid, maybe not, maybe that's not of interest to him. And he has other kids, but he has more than one kid, but that they might do it in other ways. And that's okay too. As long as it's being applied to something that's good, and it's helping others, and it's growing whatever you're aiming to grow. That, as long as it's doing that, there's nothing wrong with that.
That's an interesting topic. You do I don't people are so iffy about talking about politics. I'm
Oh
game if
yeah, and
we
I'm
do.
not talking politics. I didn't bring up Donald Trump because of politics, because I am not. I am anti politics. Like when people ask me, "Are you right? Are you left?" I go, "I'm not. I mean, I'm neither. I don't care anything about that.
Okay.
I'm all about. I don't get caught up in the minutia and of who's right on the left, who's right on the right. To me, that's a waste of energy, a waste of time. It takes away from what really matters, and that's focusing on yourself. Then how can we focus on ourselves to now focus on us, to now turn whatever challenge we have to not only see it from what you think it should be, but look at it from what it is. Doesn't always mean you have to agree with it, but what's best for everybody involved to make things work. So that's how I look at things. I am anti-political. I don't get involved in anything with politics at all. I'm only. That's why when I said Donald Trump, it had nothing to do with politics. It just had to do as an example of someone who was born into a, you know, with a family that had already been doing well. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
I believe his
yeah,
dad borrowed him like about $1 million to start his own sort of path, which I thought was cool.
yeah,
I actually like his storyline. His storyline.
yeah,
I think it prompt. I think I wanted to read his book. I think recently I wanted to read a book or his biography, because it was like his father gave him $1 million loan, but then he's in contention with his mother all the way till she dies. His mother
yeah,
is like, I think that's how the storyline goes, which
yeah,
makes
yeah,
it makes the story a little bit interesting, right? Dad is a millionaire, gets $1 million loan, mother hates what he's doing or something like that. I was like, he's a good read. He's a good read, stuff to read up on how he's sort of like dealt with that. And he's sort of like, when you look at his children, he seems to have a healthy family system. Like as much as polarizing as he is in the political
right. 'Cause he's
arena,
got he's got children from what, three different women, I guess, or I think it's three different women, right?
but he
Yeah,
loves his children. His children are like ride or die for him. Like you
yeah,
don't hear a lot of you don't hear a lot of internal, bickering or contention. It's like they're riding for their dad. It's an interesting type of dynamic that
yeah,
is on a non-political level a little bit admirable. He's got kids who are obviously benefiting from his wealth because he's just so wealthy. I mean, you got that much wealth there. To what degree are your kids going to be walking without a car? You know what I mean? Um, but his kids appear to love like their dad, and he appears to have like a certain love and passion for his kids. That's what I see in his narrative. I'm just like you. I'm not really political. I don't go left or right. I think I have conservative and liberal views to a degree. I'm like right. I'm probably smack dab in the middle. Yeah, just
Yeah.
whatever suits my fancy.
Yeah,
So what you're
I
talking
look
about,
at things
like
for what
yeah,
it is. Like
yeah.
I don't take any side. I look at it for what it is. There's always going to be two sides of a story. There's always going to have different opinions, different perspectives. It's not you're right, he's wrong, or she's right, you're wrong. It's looking at for what it is and then adapting to what's best for who's involved. That's why no one's going to always be happy if it's not all about them. It's just it is what it is, and that's we just have to adapt it and do our best for what is.
I was going to look. I hear you to a certain degree, and then to a certain degree, I'm like, um, we work on individual, but at some point it reaches a political level. Politics hits us at some point with regards to polarizing issues that mean more to you than they mean to me. For instance, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like but I agree. I'm a line, man. I'm not, as far as I'm concerned, it's all a sham. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not really sold on politics, but I do pay attention to issues that sometimes trigger me because maybe they mean more to me than I think they do. You know what I'm saying? Like if we start talking about abortion and all this kind of stuff, I don't know whether I have solid ground on a lot of crap, but I do because I don't want to control anybody. It's like, so I try to like fray from it, but I also they're also it's like there is an individual. I can respect you from the idea that everybody meet their own individual needs, just like I'm trying to meet my individual needs and
Absolutely.
objectives. Like do you like if you want to call yourself a goat, go for it. Go call yourself a goat. As long as it doesn't impact me, as long as you don't make me call you a goat, you can call yourself whatever you want to call yourself. What is there anything out there in the political landscape that means something to you? Let me ask from that angle. It doesn't have to be left or right.
I would say, like I said, I don't get caught up in politics. Like to me, the what happens with what people are doing on the left and even people on the right, it's just exhausting. It's just in my opinion, it's just a not a good use of anybody's energy. I'm not minimizing what they believe in. That's not what I mean by that. It's just
Mhm.
that by arguing to defend what you believe in is not going to help any situation. It's rather than let's see it for what it is. So for me, I'm a solution provider. I'm never going to get caught up in low vibrational energy or people, deflecting how they feel, pointing the finger at everybody else, creating chaos. I don't want to get involved in any of that. To me, it's a waste of energy. I'm always focused on, okay, here's the situation. It is what it is. Let's work together. Whether it doesn't mean you have to agree with everything, but let's work together to see what's best for everybody involved to a certain level. You're never going to be 100% satisfied, and let's work for them. That's how I look at it. I'm all about bringing people together, not dividing people. And everyone claims, the left will say we're all about bringing people together. No, they're not. They're about dividing people. The right say
Mhm.
we're all about bringing people together. No, you're not right either. You're helping to divide people. So there's a lot of a lot of people that on both sides that are hypocrites, in my opinion. They say one thing and they do another type of thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
are you in Iowa?
What's that?
Are you in Iowa?
Am I in Iowa?
Yeah.
No,
Where you based?
I'm in Connecticut. I'm in Connecticut.
Okay. All right. Um, I was going to bring up something, but that it's not going to be it's not going to be relevant to your landscape. I'm gonna riff off of this for 2 seconds here with regards to. I'm gonna stay in this lane here just a little bit, I suppose. Um,
Yeah.
just because there's one thing I wanted to sort of, I guess, squeeze out or see whether you have an opinionated answer to, because
Yeah.
you I'll come from the angle of spiritual. You're a spirit. You're a spiritual
Yeah.
guy.
Spiritual. Yes.
A believer in Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh, understanding. Do you go to church?
I do. I do. Well, no, I'm not a church person. But I'm
Okay.
very spiritual. But I'm not a church person.
Um, there is this thing within the church, just with it. There's this conflict between the world and the church per se. It's old.
Yeah.
It's old. It's an old conflict that the church is judgmental. It's too judgmental, and and therefore it blocks people from wanting to go to church. And my, upon, and I have a lot of empathy and compassion for people who've been damaged by the church. And I'm getting somewhere with this. There's a connection to politics here at some point.
Yeah.
But I have compassion for people who've been damaged by the church and no longer feel like church is a resource that they want to go to because they don't feel like they're getting what they need from it, because they feel like they're going to a place where there's nothing but opinionated, judgmental
Well,
people.
that's what it is. It's no different than schools. Schools are subconsciously trying to plant liberal views in children, and
Okay.
maybe some kids are in that don't want that, and you want a child to decide for him or herself what is best for him, not like you have to do. So I think there's that anything that you should never, that none of that should ever be imposed in schools, or let alone churches.
I agree.
Yeah.
However, there's a certain degree where a person has to make a stance
Sure.
or pivot into the conversation from having a lighthearted conversation about Jesus Christ to these are things that are definitively, God is definitively against, because the world will naturally combat against it. That we are that we are in these small little wars, whether we want to be in them or not. And we can't get out of it. The church can't get out of it. And sometimes when a church has a strong disposition, it's because the opposition to it has been so strongly put in front of it that it has to make a strong opinion about it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it runs the risk of diluting the Bible to compensate or to appease someone who wants rules to be broken. Does that make sense? So it
Yep.
makes the church look judgmental when in fact the church is more or less just advancing their position and standing firm in their positioning with regards to how they affirm themselves as it relates to what they believe the Bible is saying. Does that make sense? So,
Makes sense.
okay. So then I feel like even though we are individualistic, going back to the political discussion just a little bit, we inevitably get forced into into that battle at some point in our lives. We can't avoid it. Like it is impossible to be neutral and solution focused in an environment that is at war.
Well, I mean, again, I don't put myself in those situations. You're not going to see me at a rally. You're not going to see me at a protest. That to me is
Right.
a utter waste of time. Now, I'm not saying that is a waste of time for everybody, because to them, they believe in something, and they believe by going out there protesting is going to help them out. Then all power to you. To me, it's not. It's a waste of energy to me. So I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm always focused on the things about, okay, things are for what it is. What can we do to make it better? And that's why I put up boundaries. If something is vibrating with negativity, I put up boundaries to that. I don't accept chaos into my life. I don't bring toxic people into my life, and I put up boundaries to make sure that that protects my high vibrational energy, because I'm all about healing. I'm all about solutions, seeing challenges as a good thing to turn it into opportunities to get results. So yes, the reality is there's a lot of chaos around us, and yes, we have to adapt to that. I just again choose to know when to do with it, do what I can positively with it, and then knowing when to put up boundaries to protect my energy.
Does that? But let me advance this toward. I'm a therapist by trade, and
Yeah.
I always I'm always curious about the impact of the environment to our emotions, our thought process, and our behavior, and how it informs and become and how our belief systems are refined throughout that process.
Well, Bill, you just nailed
Yeah.
it. I mean, you could go on TikTok and you can see it every day. I mean,
Yeah.
people feel like, like what's happening in Minneapolis and happening in New York, and again, people, they do this. Look at some of these people that are trying to defend the First Amendment, where they go out and they film people in public, and some people take offense to that, say, "Why are you filming me?" And
Right.
feeling that you're breaking the law because that you're invading my privacy. And but by law, they're not invading your privacy. You could videotape anything in public,
Right.
and but people don't like it. But yet people are so stuck on their beliefs and imposing that onto others. Just because how you see it doesn't mean another person sees it that way. Yes, there is going to be a law, either the laws of the universe or laws of man, that will say, okay, you kill somebody, there's a consequence. That's murder. You're gonna go to jail, and you're gonna spend a certain amount of time in prison as a result of that. So
Mhm.
again, there's there's certain things that we just have to abide. We got to find something in the middle that hopefully is going to align with people, not completely 100% to their beliefs, but within reason, so that we can all cohabitate and do our best to navigate this world we live in, instead of clashing and combating and trying to go to the grave defending our beliefs,
Right.
and like that you should, like the only way to God is through Allah. If you're Muslim, like you have
Mhm.
these radical Muslims that will kill people, so that unless you convert to Muhammad and Allah. And
Right.
then you got radical Christians doing the same thing. You've seen some of these cults, and a lot of times they prey upon people that are vulnerable or emotionally not all together, and they're seeking an answer, so yeah, it's again, we don't create, just our world just doesn't create healthy environments, and so
Mhm.
sometimes we can't avoid everything, but we have to do our best. I know for me, like I surround myself with positive people. I limit my exposure around large groups of people because they're draining. That's just my choice. That's how I am.
Mhm.
I'm a professional speaker. I'm in front of a lot of people, but after I'm done, I'm gone. I go back to my hotel. I'm by myself. I recharge. I'm not interested in being drained. So I've learned how to do this. I know how to protect my energy, and yet I can still do good and still put things out there to help people, see things from a different way, and not just be caught up in how they see it, and find somewhere in the middle so that we can all again work together instead of divide each other.
Yeah, I think we get forced in those positions though. You don't feel you. So let me give you an example. Just take what I was talking about before. And
Yeah.
just the idea that sometimes we get forced into refining our perspective that leans on the spectrum of politics at some point. You can't avoid it. So you use the example of the shooting that happened in Minnesota, right? You know, just as much as I don't really pay attention to politics. I keep it. It's sitting there, but it's all sitting on the side of each and every one of us, right?
Yeah.
This is the human dilemma here, and for me, I can ignore it, but then to a degree that would almost make me conflict avoidant, which
Well,
you
yeah,
get what
you're
I'm
not.
saying?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not
Okay.
ignoring it.
Okay.
Like for me, I'm not ignoring it. I'm just choosing to see it for what it is, and I'm not going, like, if for me going to a protest to say that you left people are wrong or you right people are wrong,
Right. That
ain't
part.
gonna help
Yeah.
anything. It's gonna create more conflict, and then it eventually gets out of hand where people start getting hurt. And as we see,
Right.
that ain't gonna
Okay.
solve everything. It's like, hey, I may not agree with the way you see things, and you may not agree with the way I see things, and that's okay. It's like, but things are for what it is. What can we do within our control together to find somewhere in the middle that we can see and feel okay, and then and take it from there. But again, so many people, especially today, are being pushed to see things a certain way, and they will go to their graves defending that and even hurt
Yeah.
people in the process with it. And it's getting to that. It's getting worse every day. It's pretty sad. I mean, you look at our country. I mean, if I were living in another country right now, we are the laughing stock of the world. I mean, in my
Mhm.
opinion, the United States is. It's just
Mhm.
we're looked upon a bunch of buffoons. Even though we're still a very strong country, we have the best military in the world. I get
Right.
it, but I'm just talking, just people wise. What we're like children. We're acting like spoiled children. My opinion.
Yeah. I'm gonna say something. I know you can agree with this because
Yeah,
from because I think what where you're speaking from, I'm 100% in alignment with regards to the idea that it doesn't do any good to sit in these strong opinions about things that really don't impact us in our current circle of impact. Um, One of the things I tell my clients sometimes is you have your truth, other people have their truth, and then there is the truth. I talk about the three truths. The idea that I have how I think the world is framed, and you're entitled to have how you think the world is framed, and I can affirm that for you, and then I can also affirm that both of us are ignorant to a greater objective opinion, which I believe is the mind of God. Is God's that there's something greater that is more informed than both of us. And you take the example of the protest. I as much as I agree. I think that protest is a waste of time in modern form. Or you should be, or people should be refine how they protest. I believe John O'Brien talked about it. He said, if you want to protest, protest with your pockets. Just don't, just don't, just don't support financially things that don't align with your beliefs. That's the greatest protest you could ever do. I
yeah,
100% agree with them. It's like if you don't like something, vote with your pockets and your presence. Just don't support institutions that don't reinforce your belief system and let the chips fall where they may. Um, but but I also can understand. I can understand the necessity to say something is wrong in the environment, especially if it's egregious. You see what I'm saying? In other words, I can appreciate their truth, but I can also understand a truth that says that some of that is a waste of time. But I can also appreciate the root of why somebody might protest. And that root of why somebody might protest is the thing that challenges all of us on a human level, which
yeah,
is you're presented information and you're still, even though you want to be neutral, you're still forced to have an opinion about it. Does that make sense? Like
yeah,
that, that shooting that happened in Minnesota that sparked this outrage in that area. Everybody is forced to have an opinion about it. You have to, because that's just part of solid judgment and intuition, right? Is
yeah,
to make informed judgments of whether something is right or wrong, or to try to give as much information to have an opinion about it. And it does impact us emotionally. Some people feel sorry, like when the shootings happened along about 10 years ago with regards to I think it happened in Minnesota too. The black dude got killed. That impacted me emotionally, even though I may feel like protesting is not the best way of going about it. But
yes.
you know what I'm saying? Um, so I guess my question is like, Larry, well, where are you going with this? Is there anything in the environment that politically that impacts you emotionally?
Like I said, because I'm an expert in emotional intelligence, and I practice it every day. And I spent 26 years raising my level of emotional intelligence. So I'm really well conditioned to not allow anything to jeopardize that. I'm not saying it can if I allowed it and became complacent in my practice with it. But I would say that again, it's just I just don't put myself in those environments. Like I'm not going to get involved in rallies. I'm not going to get involved in protests. I'm not going to be glued to CNN and all the news stations and listen to what the media says. I don't, I don't put myself in that. So I just block it out. And this is how I'm able to protect my emotional intelligence and be strong. So this way that if I'm in a situation where someone is trying to impose their beliefs on me or judges me to be something that I'm not because they assume that, I don't allow that to, affect me. I remove myself, or
Okay.
I'm able to just to approach that person with a smile, just being neutral, and then again, if we could have a conversation, great. If it leads to something where they start taking things, I just remove myself and say, hey, this is not, your behavior, your tone of voice is not conducive to how I like to have a conversation. I'm going to remove myself right now, and perhaps maybe we could pick this up where we left off tomorrow.
Yeah. For me, I'm thinking about lighter emotions. I understand having a pragmatic perspective. Like what the disposition you're talking about is leaning towards what they would call like having a pragmatic perspective. In other
Yeah.
words, not making emotional or behavioral decisions off of a strong emotion. But even when we talk about emotional intelligence, there is the concept of empathy and being able to be provoked with compassion, or even provoked with compassion that comes through frustration for what is happening, for whatever is causing the thing that you're having compassion about, right? We're not removed from that. You could be that. You could be at the highest level of emotional intelligence. I would say that empathy is the highest level of emotional intelligence.
Well, empathy, yeah, because empathy leads from example and resourcefulness. Empathy is not pleasing and enabling. Empathy is different from sympathy. When you have sympathy for someone, you will go out of your way to please and enable them. That doesn't help them. It only drains you, and it only causes them to be stuck and stagnant in their ways. Empathy leads by example and is resourceful. It encourages others to do for themselves. And that again is through your example and resourcefulness. So that's what I always lead from is empathy. Always.
When you look at the events that happened in Minnesota, I'm gonna lean in on that just to see how you frame this. I guess when you look at the events in Minnesota, how does that make you feel?
I'm not, it doesn't affect me either way. It doesn't make me upset. It doesn't make me happy. I look at it as that's what people want to do, and how they look at things. That's great. I think both sides are wrong. And I mean, if you were asking my personal opinion, I think they're both at fault. But nonetheless, they think that what they're doing is right, and that's their perspective. For me, I just choose not to get involved in it because either side is not solving the chat, making the challenge better. They're just managing and making the challenge more complicated. Both sides.
Oh, fair enough. What
Yeah.
emotion encompasses that? What you're talking about right now?
What encompasses that is anger. Anger is the lowest vibrational energy there is in the world, and this is where people are leading from anger. Plain and simple.
I'm gonna make sure we're on the same frequency here. What emotion are you describing for yourself? So I get
For
that you
me,
have a neutral perspective, but
I lead
right.
from empathy. I lead from joy. I lead
Okay.
from.
All right, fair enough.
That's what I lead from. And if someone is going out of their way to try to change that, to make it, try to provoke me, try to push my buttons, they could do that. That they have every right. But I put up boundaries and say, hey, I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Yeah.
And I can remove myself from that. So
yeah. I guess the reason why I came from that angle is to say we're not emotionless creatures when it comes to our surrounding environments. That you at the highest level of emotion, we're still impacted emotionally, and then we decide what we want to do with that emotion, right?
yeah. Yep.
That's the execution of emotional intelligence. It's not the void of emotion, but it is taking whatever emotion is present and asking ourselves, well, what do we do with that emotion? How do we process that? And how do we make that emotion productive for us? Or is it a productive emotion? But it doesn't mean that we don't feel the emotion.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, no, you can feel again if you're allowing it to impact you, like and make you angry, then you chose that. I mean, again, we all have filters, and you either can allow it to affect you or not allow it to affect you. And I choose not to allow it to affect me at all. You know, I don't know these people. They're not my family. It doesn't mean I don't care.
Right.
You would hope that these people would grow up and find a better way to find resolution rather than doing what they're doing. But I can't control them. So what's the point of me trying to force something I can't control? It's a waste of my time.
Yeah. Let me give an example. Like when I saw the incident, I felt sad that somebody got killed, but also I felt angry. I felt angry at different variations that I felt a little bit frustrated that people were out there causing,
Well, there's nothing wrong with
concern.
protesting, but when you think about it, both sides are responsible. It's not
Yeah.
one over the other. Somebody
Yeah.
could say, well,
Yeah. But
we could say it was the ICE agent that shot this loving mother. And well, wait a minute. That woman chose to interrupt with operation. She chose to
right.
do certain things that put her in a situation where something bad could happen. So
Right.
she also played a part. It's like a
Mm.
divorce when you go through a divorce and somebody says, "Well, it's my husband's fault. He was unfaithful. He did all these things."
Right.
And it's always one spouse is at fault, the other is not, and that's not the case. You're both had played a part in the dissolving of the marriage. It's the same thing in the situation. Everyone's saying, "Oh, she was shot. She was innocently murdered." No, she wasn't.
Yeah.
And was the ICE agent? He probably there could have been maybe another way. Yes, he was also thought he was getting hit by a car,
Right.
but might have maybe done something different. But it's both sides played a part in the
Right.
consequence that
Oh
happened.
yeah, I agree. So there's no qualms there. I just say that it struck me with irrational emotions, and it
Yeah.
struck me with emotions that I had to contend with. That I still have to contend with. But do I put all my stake in it? No, because I'm not there, and I got bigger fish to fry. I got to take care of my kids. Like I got other things on my menu aside from dealing with things that are like 1,000 miles away. But in the moment, I can process my emotions and ask myself, well, what do I really stand on things based off of what I see presented in front of me? Based off of how I feel about those things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyways, we're probably going somewhere and nowhere at the same time here with this conversation, but it was good to hear your thoughts on it and just sort of hear how you
Absolutely.
part of my intrigue about doing podcast interviews is to see how people ebb and weave and navigate through spaces. And I'll tell you this. I'll do it live. I'll say this live. I'll be emailing people asking to actually interview people, and people will reply back. Can we keep it PC? Can we just talk about everything aside from everything else? I was like, no. Like you should be able to intellectually navigate. My assistant.
I can talk about anything, and it doesn't. I'm not.
Yeah,
That's nothing. Nothing's going to push my buttons. And
yeah.
it,
But you should know
do
how
I
to.
feel like that? Do I choose? Would I choose to talk about politics? No, I don't. It's not something I want to. But if somebody, if I'll just address it always the same way, very neutral. I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't take one side or the other. I never have, and I never will.
Yeah, but you should be able to. You should have the ability to navigate and talk about anything with a certain level of professionalism, and diplomacy, however you want to. Like that part of the uniqueness of our human experience is how we navigate through those treacherous waters and still maintain our integrity of self. So
Yes.
that so that's what I was telling my assistant. I was like, I'm not going to avoid talking about things because I'm not trying to incite
Yeah.
anything. I'm merely trying to. Part of the enjoyment of the process is asking a unique individual and see how they uniquely respond in that space to that. And there's a beauty in that. There's a beauty in how you responded to these questions here. I was a little bit intentionally going down an angle here because you call it the evil scientist in me. I'm trying to see how nervous you get. You know, you held your cool, you maintain your position, and you're able to speak to it with a level of eloquence and neutrality and maintain your sense of integrity, which your integrity, from what I hear, is I don't get caught up in those things. I worry about what's right in front of me and try to problem solve what's right in front of me. And that is an acceptable and well-received presentation with regards to talk about those things, because that's what matters to you. But
yeah,
if I said those, if I went down this alley and say, Larry, I don't want to talk about these things here, I don't know where the conversation will lead. I'll probably stop, of course. I probably should. I'll probably talk about something else. But I believe that we have to figure out, like you said, it's not being conflict avoidant, it's knowing where you stand on it.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Because I threw out the word conflict avoidant, but really the huge thing is knowing where you stand based off of where you're at in life. And what I hear Christopher say is where I'm at in life, that stuff does not matter as much as being solution focused and helping individuals problem solve their emotional challenges. So I'll leave on that note there. Sorry if I overtalked here, but this is
no worries. And I do have another call here in 2 minutes. I gotta get.
Oh shoot! Okay, all right. Yeah. Well, how do people reach out to you?
Sure. No, absolutely. Yes. So the best way. Thank you for this conversation. I love the approach, because it really shows how we can have rational conversations and not allow touchy subjects to take. So the best place to reach me, you can always connect with me on LinkedIn at Christopher Salem. I'm also, you can reach out to me at Christopher Salem, my full name.com. My business website is sustainablesuccess.net, or email at Chris at ChristopherSalem.com is fine.
Nice. Chris, nice meeting you. Maybe next time.
Absolutely. Definitely love the conversation, and thank you for all you do.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Positivity, man. Talk to you later. Bye now.
Talk soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.